Today on Off the Wall, we will be looking at a recent service from Pastor Mark at his home church in Spruce Grove, Alberta, titled, You Can Overcome. Stay tuned, Off the Wall will be right back.
That's the issue. Can you get it from the source? That's what Jesus trained his disciples to do. The one thing about overcoming, it's funny because I just a second ago talked about the fact that the clay, doesn't have to do much. That doesn't mean anything or nothing. Doesn't have to do nothing or doesn't have to do anything. It means it doesn't have to do much. But it has to respond and do the part that it needs to do. Okay? That there is a call to overcome. Overcome. There are people right now in this room that every couple of weeks you get into a funk. You get into an emotional funk where something comes on you. I don't know. It may be precipitated by a sin that easily besets you, that comes upon you every once in a while. And then there's a cycle. You begin to draw away from people, or something happens. You get sick, or you just begin to feel bad and you don't call people. But you get into a funk, and it happens on a regular rotation. It's almost like clockwork. Every 6-8 weeks or whatever it is. God is calling you to overcome. You can overcome that. What? With what? How do you overcome that? He says everything necessary for life and godliness has been provided in the knowledge of God. Louise, are you hearing me? In the knowledge of God. In the knowledge of God. There's something given for you to overcome. I'm looking around the room. I see people who have been in trials all over this room, trials, and God is trying to tell you, listen, you can overcome. I've called you to overcome. You can't run from the test. You can't hide. You can't go to another church and get away from it. You can't go to another city and get away from it. You can't go to another job and get away from it. You just have to overcome. Listen to some of these promises. First of all, in 1 John 5:4, it says, everything that has been born of God overcomes the world. And this is a victory that overcomes the world, our faith. Now, this sort of ties into what we've been talking about the last few weeks, because God has been trying to show you what overcomes and what does not. He's trying to make a division in you between those things that overcome the world and those things that don't. He's trying to show you what works and what doesn't work. But in Revelations chapter 2 and verse 7, it says this, he who has an ear to hear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. To him who overcomes, I will give to eat from the tree of life, which is in the midst of the paradise of God. I want you to close your eyes right now. When Adam and Eve sinned, they ate of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. They were in a perpetual state of condemnation from that time forward. So the Holy Spirit said, remove them from the garden. We were just talking about this week on our television show. Sometimes we think this is punishment. God said, okay, we'll teach them to not do what we say. Get them out of the garden. They're not allowed to be in the garden of God anymore. That wasn't judgment. That wasn't punishment. That was mercy. Because if they, in their condemned state, had eaten of the tree of life, they would have remained as they were perpetually, forever. He said, the reason they were removed from the garden was because the tree of life was there. So they could not remain as they were. God said the only hope of changing them, of redeeming them, is to remove them so they can't access the tree of life. And now God says to you, if you overcome the failures of your genetics, the failures of your spiritual inheritance, the failure of your family line, the failures of your moms and your dads and your grandmas and grandpas, the failure of the church, the failure of our political systems in the church, the failures of past, present, and future leaders, you can overcome. And if you overcome, you get to eat of the tree of life. What else? You heard about that t-shirt? That little proverb says, born once, die twice, born twice, die once. It's talking about we're all born once. We're all born of mothers. Everybody in the room here. Even Drew. Born of a mother. Everybody of us are born once, but if we're born twice, we'll only die once. Spiritual death, whatever it may look like, however it may translate in the end, spiritual death cannot touch you if you overcome. If you overcome. Listen, there is a mandate upon you not just to be saved, but to overcome. That's a part of what being a part of a body of people is about. That's a part of what coming to church is about. That is a part of my exhortation to you. Pray in the Spirit. Break through in the Spirit. Don't let these seasons come upon your life of depression, of failure, of a sense of listless, paranoia or whatever it may be. Don't let that atmosphere come on down on top of you and be subject to you. Don't let these things define you. Rise up, overcome. Rise up, overcome. These thought processes that come and immobilize you. Overcome. If you overcome, you won't be hurt by the second death. Then in Revelations 2:26, it says this, and he who overcomes and keeps my works until the end, to him I will give power over the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron, and they shall be dashed to pieces like a potter's vessel, as I have also received from my Father, and I will give him the morning star. He who has ears to hear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. With overcoming is not only eternal life, escaping the second death, but the chance to rule and reign forever. How many of you have resented being low dog at work? Have you ever been last guy at work where all the terrible jobs are yours? You know, all the dirty jobs, all the jobs that, nobody else wants to do. When you're the youngest guy, when you're the most experienced guy at work, that's what you got to do. You get the worst stuff. And you think to yourself, man, if only I'd gotten into this thing at the ground level. I remember a little while ago we had two Carlton boys working for the same company, and the younger had started before the older. Hey, Miles? And then, and Tristan's there at work, and I remember talking to Clint about it. He says, yeah, it's kind of a bummer for Miles because, Tristan's kind of his boss now. And you hate to be the low man on the totem pole where you're having told what to do. And there's something inside of us that hates being told what to do, eh? Imagine being stuck there for eternity. To him that overcomes, you won't have to be low man on the totem pole. You don't have to be doing all the Joe jobs. You won't have to be the least. You can be the greatest. Wow. Forever. 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 People give their lives for a position, for a title, for a role where they don't have to be the last in line, where they try to get as high up that ladder as they possibly can. People They compromise their integrity, they compromise their bodies, they compromise their morality, they compromise everything for this temporary little position that's going to pass away. Like one day, like a flower that rises up, and one day it's there, the next day it's wilted and gone. They give themselves for this. And God is saying, listen, I have positions to him who overcomes. I have a government full of noble places for the nobles and all others. Who wants to overcome? Let the spirit of faith that can overcome begin to stir deep inside your spirit today. God, that begins to say, Lord, I can be the kind of believer that you need for me to be. I can be an overcomer. I can step past the limitations. Lord, I don't have to default to anything. I don't have to default to a critical spirit. I don't have to default to depression. I don't have to default to sin. I don't have to default to what my parents did. I don't have to do it.
One of the things we value here at Spruce Grove Community Church is family and relationships.
We're starting to see that it's not just about pursuing God in an isolated way, but pursuing God together as a team, as a family, through intimate relationship and transparency.
You see, if we're alone on this journey, it's going to be a lonely road, and we're going to get knocked over a time or two. But if we learn to come together as a family and push through these things together, we will go further and deeper into the things of the Lord. So if you want to be part of this family, we encourage you to come to Spruce Grove Community Church and check it out for yourself.
You are welcome to attend Spruce Grove Community Church. We are located 15 minutes west of Edmonton. Sunday services start at 10 a.m.
Quite a few years ago, I was teaching a course at Christ for the Nations I developed called Personal Discipleship. It became, at the time, the most popular course that was being taught at the school. We had a resounding response from the students, and even to this day, I have students who say that that was some of the most profound teaching they had ever had in their life concerning this journey. I want to be able to present that to you where you live. We have this recorded on DVD and we have it on CDs, but the Lord has challenged me to begin to do this in locations across Canada and the United States over the next few years. If you'd like to be a part of hosting a personal discipleship seminar in your region, please contact the address, email, phone number that's shown on the ad. We'd love to do this in your area as we move towards preparing a people who will function in a higher and higher way in the kingdom of God for the glory of Jesus.
I was really surprised by this teaching because it's much deeper than I expected.
God showed up and taught me about myself.
It was just super exposing. There's something so much deeper, and it's actually something that has life on it that's actually profound.
The results just speak for themselves.
Revelations 3 and verse 5 says, "He who overcomes shall be clothed in white garments, and I will not blot out his name from the book of life." Now, that's got to be good. But it does bring up the possibility that somebody's name might be blotted out, but we're not going to get into that. But if you overcome, your name will not be blotted out of the book of life. In Jesus, think about this, Jesus will confess your name before his Father and before his angels. Man, what would that look like? The ultimate stage. Right? Speaking of stages, you've seen how stir-crazy our culture has gone over being in the limelight. It's a sickness. All the while ignoring the true stage, the true limelight, the true moment when glory and honor will be given to those who refused glory and honor on earth. the ultimate stage, the ultimate reward show. Anybody ever been at a reward ceremony where you thought, when's my turn? I never got picked. I never got those trophies. I never got, best academic guy. But there's a level playing field that God has created so that every single one of you can have an opportunity outside of genetics, outside of birth order in your family, outside of what kind of family you've been born into, whether rich or poor, whether noble or ignoble. What nation, it doesn't matter. God has leveled the playing field and saying, listen, there's an award ceremony coming. And to him who overcomes, I'll call out your name. Out of Spruce Grove, Alberta, Canada, Brent Mottershed. Woo! And following closely behind him, Tammy Mottershed. Give it up for Tammy! And the Lord extends the scepter. To him who overcomes. To him who overcomes. To him who overcomes. Him who overcomes. Let this come over you like a wave. This world is passing away with its rewards, with its systems, but something is coming online that will not pass away. That thing inside you that so badly wants to be on the front edge of this wave or that wave, whether it's a business or a fad or a dance style, that thing inside of you that's given over to those desires needs to be given over to him. Wherever you feel you want to be preeminent, wherever you feel you want to be first, God says, listen, if you will choose to be first where it counts, I'll make sure you're first where it doesn't count. And verse 12 says this. Did I read verse 5? Yeah, I did. He who overcomes, in verse 12 says, I will make him a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall go out no more. And I will write on him the name of my God, the name of the city of my God, the New Jerusalem, which comes down out of heaven from my God, and I will write on him a new name. Now listen, what does that mean? I'll tell you what this implies. There are pillars, and there are those who visit the temple. Hello? Let this sink deeply into your hearts. There are functions that are so integral to the kingdom of God that they essentially become a part of the eternal habitation. The thing you need to know is that proximity to God in the rule of heaven is its own reward. In the same way you have that here. You know, influential people that give allegiance to a political leader who's up and rising before he's promised a place, he rewards them with a seat in the cabinet, or he rewards them with a post here or there, something that's more integral to government, more central. And God is saying to you, listen, it's wide open. This thing's wide open. If you die to these small things, that self-pity that comes on you again and again and again, that you indulge, day in, day out, or month in, month out, when you say, woe is me, and become self-centered, if you would give that over, if you would die to that, if you would lay that down and overcome, you can be in the middle of my world. Anybody here ever felt rejected? Anybody here ever make any decisions based on that rejection? Well, fine then. You're not going to include me. I'm not going to include you. Fine then. When you listen to the voice of self-pity, when you respond out of your need to be accepted and to be central to everything, that's a black hole that can never be filled. Do you hear me? The need to be in the middle of everything. I can tell you, I honestly understand this. The need to be at the center of everything is a black hole that can never be fulfilled. But to be in the center of the greatest show on earth, the greatest show the earth will ever know, the greatest show the universe will ever know, you can be at the very center of it, means not needing to be a part of everything right now. Not needing everybody to treat you just the right way. Not needing everybody to speak to you just the right way. Overcoming. I am not going to for a second indulge self-pity. If you can do that and overcome that impulse to crawl back to a little dark corner and lick your wounds and say, nobody loves me except my little demon friend self-pity, who cozies up to me, and it's a demon. In that little dark corner, it's, oh, poor you. I'm the only one that understands. You're fellowshipping with a demon. Do you know that? And that little dark, perverse, he's got a bottle of ointments that squirt a little kind of an atmosphere like a cologne that elicits more self-indulgent feelings. Yeah, poor you. You never get a fair break, do you? To him that overcomes. Need I say more? I'm telling you, we are being offered the world and more. And Jesus was right when he turned his back on what Satan was offering him in the temptation, when he said, all these things I will give to you if you bow down to me. And that same voice is coming to you and saying, all these things I will give if you bow down to me. And we bow down to these things and we still don't get it. Yet he who is faithful and righteous and true is saying, listen, if you bow down to me, you will get it.
One of the things we value here at Spruce Grove Community Church is worship. And we strongly believe that as we come together as a corporate body, we will see things happen not only in our own lives, but we believe we will see change in our communities, in our nations, and around the world.
We've been experiencing what it's like to come to a church where God is still alive, living and breathing. We're not singing traditional songs out of tradition. We're doing it because we're drawing close to a living, breathing God that is alive in us.
So if you want to be part of this journey with us, we want you to come to Spruce Grove Community Church and worship with us.
You are welcome to attend Spruce Grove Community Church. We are located 15 minutes west of Edmonton. Sunday services start at 10 a.m.
The glory of the Father's house is about the glory. It's about the weightiness of God. I'm not going to promise you anything if you come to this conference, but I'm telling you that year by year, the presence of God is increasing, that there's a depth and a weightiness to His presence that I believe is foreshadowing a visitation of God to the nations of the earth. We are yearning for, desiring, calling that God would come and land His feet square in Spruce Grove this fall.
It's time once again for the Glory of the Father's House Conference, hosted in Spruce Grove, Alberta, with speakers Mark Briesblock, Danielle Bloom, and Mike Danforth. For more information, please visit our website at www.watchman.ca.
The whole of the world is shifting. Culturally, economically, relationally. But there is one constant, and that's God. He never changes. We need to adapt and shift our thinking out of the natural realm that we've been raised in and move it up into the supernatural so that we can bring the answers that God has into this realm and we can really make a difference.
My husband Ken came to me with the book, and I read what he'd written, and it was really good with the doctrine, but I felt doctrine's often boring, and we needed real life stories to tell us about how we got from where we were to where we were going. We needed to see the shift of the natural to the supernatural, so I began compiling stories for each chapter, and at the end of each chapter I felt we needed to give the people something that they could do, and we put in prayers, powerful prayers to move people into what God had for them.
First of all, we got to change our thoughts. The problem is our thoughts aren't God's thoughts. Our thoughts were developed when we were younger and were mostly protective mechanisms that we used. And we need to dismantle those things. We need to get those things healed. Once they're healed, then we can impose God's thoughts upon them. His thoughts then will change the way we feel about something, will change our emotions. Those emotions will drive us into proper action. Those actions done over and over will become habits. Those habits, over a period of time, will develop our character, and our character then will open the way for us to be able to move into our destiny. But it all begins with our thoughts. And so we have to go back and get those thoughts healed and make a shift into allowing God's thoughts to become our thoughts.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's broadcast. I hope you enjoyed this challenging service. You know, we're not called just to go to church and to be moral all of our lives. There is a mandate upon us to become overcomers. Now, the circumstances of your life might be entirely different from my life, but rest assured, God knows. God knows exactly the conditions that you're in today. He understands precisely what you need in order to fulfill your destiny. And when He calls you to rise up, to overcome, to deal with the circumstances, the issues, the pressures that are in front of you, He doesn't do that from a place of ignorance. He doesn't do that from a place of vindictiveness or callousness concerning your condition. He knows that the very best thing for you is to overcome in these circumstances. We don't have to worry about the fairness of the circumstances. We don't have to worry about who has circumstances equal to ours or far less grievous. It doesn't really matter when push comes to shove, because God knows you. God knows what you need. God knows what He wants to do in you. And that's the beautiful thing. God knows what He wants to do in you. Let me read one more of these passages. I just love all of this stuff in Revelations because it's the call again and again and again and again. Overcome, overcome, overcome. He said, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and dine with him and he with me. To him who overcomes, I will grant to sit with me in my throne." Think of the promise. God Himself, His Son, Jesus Christ, is making it possible for you to sit in His throne with Him if you simply overcome. Small cost, huge reward. We'll see you next week.